guys, welcome back to another video. So today we're working back on the Lupo. First video actually doing something to the Lupo, and I've got a little gift for it. Oh. I got these to put on it, so yeah, let's get to it. I'm gonna leave that in the video. So the first thing I need to do is pull this interior trim off, and I've already loosened this. I absolutely hate doing the rear shocks on these cars because you've got to take all the interior trim off, and I hate breaking clips. So there's two little screws, one here and one here. You'll see them, they're just these little plastic tab things. They come off, and then it's held by clips all the way down here. So just gently pry it with a little tool, a plastic tool or something, and it will come off. These are the clips all the way along here. And then you just need to take these little torque screws out of here, and then you don't have to take this off. You can just pry it away and then get enough space to get into the back of that shock. You helping?
Yeah, man.
Right, so behind these panels, just these two screws, and this will just lift away enough to see behind there. Now, if you pull the carpet back, you'll see this little rubber cone. That just pinches and pulls off. And we need to hold the top of this and then just undo that there. As you can see by that paint, this hasn't been off from factory. So you want to take off this nut first. I used a pair of mole grips to sort of hold the top here on that little flat bit, and then undone that, took the little washer off and took the rubber off the top. Now I've done that to both sides, so when I jack the car up, obviously the beam will stay where it is, hopefully, and it will look stupid for a while, and then I can take the shocks out and the springs as well, and we'll do that first. Ah, look, the shocks fell out.
Look at that. So wobbly.
Oh, look how high it is. Really good.
All good?
Yeah. So when you've got this jacked up, obviously this will drop down, but it's no longer connected, and your springs should just come out. Now, this is an important part that people forget. There's a little tin sort of spring seat that sits just on the bottom of this arm, on the bottom of where your spring is. Now, on this car it's popped straight out, but on some cars you'll have to hammer these on the bottom to get them to release, because they get stuck to the trailing arm. If you don't get this out, your coilover's not going to sit right. I wasn't told that. So this one's stuck in, so what I'm going to do is just use an old chisel, put it on the very edge of that lip, and then just tap it with a hammer, and it should release. There we go. That's what you want to get off. The lower shock bolts out. You can do these with a ratchet. They're just a 16mm on either side. 16mm to hold the nut, and then a 16mm to obviously undo it with. Now I'm just lazy, so I'm just going to use an impact gun. There's your shock. If you do take these bump stops off, make sure that you get this little washer out, because the washer is what stops it sliding over this little ring, or she'll just push it all the way down. It will never actually bolt up to the car properly. Okay, let's go. So I'm going to put these spring mounts in. I'm not going to use the adjusters. It's probably recommended to use the adjusters because the spring won't sit too great. But I didn't use them on my last car, so I'm not going to use them on this one. Get them off, and then there's a little 19 bolt underneath. I think it's a 19, it was on my old one, and then we'll just put these on the spring seats. So the way these sit, the little ring goes around the inner ring there, that sits there. That goes underneath, bolt goes through, and just tighten it up. Easy as that. Okay, that's one. Look at you. So I'm going to get this shock in. I was always told that you should cycle a shock a few times by hand before you install it, just to make sure that the oil's flowing correctly. So I just use these braces to stop it popping off in any weird way. Take that top nut off, keep that. Now you want the washer first, that sits on that little collar to stop it going any further down, then that on, and then your bottom rubber. Is that the right bottom rubber? It doesn't really matter. You want to put your bottom rubber on, and there's this little brass sort of spacer ring that just centres it on the thing. Just put that in the middle there, and then put that into the car. Just the reverser removal. One bolt, one nut. I do them up, but I don't do them all the way when I'm putting them back on, because if you don't line them up properly, your shock will be bending in the wrong direction. So just do it just enough until the shock still moves for now, but it's in place. Then we want to do the same to the other side, get the springs in position, and then we'll start to drop it down. I'll be back with you when I'm putting the springs in. That's weird. You've got two sides to your spring. You've got a flat side, which is what sits on the coilover, on the springer seat, and then you've got the other round side, which sits on this rubber that you need to take off either the body or the spring, depending where it's stuck. This just pushes on and twists into position. And it is starting to rain, so if you see me rushing, it's because I don't want to get drowned. There we go. So that just sits in there, and then where that mounts, you'll quite easily see the spring mount on your car just above where this is. Mine's going to sit there because I ain't got helpers, so I'll just have to hold it in line while I lower the car down, and then it'll sit on the spring seat. So let's get it tightened up. So if I just take the camera, so that shock is now mounted, but it's not mounted, it's going up into that hole, that's where we want that to be. And the spring is just going to go onto that spring seat there, which when I jack it up, it will meet that spring seat, just like there. Now we can do this bottom bolt up in a moment, because what we're going to do first, now that's all the way through, put the top rubber on, like that, top washer on, and then the nut, and we're going to tighten that up first. Do the same to the other side, and then we can tighten the lower ones, put the trim back together, get it on the floor, and it's done. So these should be all bolted up just like that. The bottom, once you've done the top up, just make sure these are as tight as they can be, and they need to sit on them spring seats when you lower the car down. They will move if you don't run adjusters, because obviously you're so low, but yeah, apart from that, it's literally ready to go. So that's the rear half completely done. Obviously that's pretty damn low, and when it settles it'll actually go a little bit lower than that. So it may need an adjuster putting in there at some point, depending on what wheels I get. But now I just need to take care of this, because this is a problem, so we'll do that in a bit. I might have to do it on another day if the weather doesn't hold out. Yeah, so it started raining, so we're back on another day. It absolutely threw it down. Yeah, British weather, you can't rely on it for anything, but I wasn't going to get absolutely soaked just to do coilovers, so I'm just going to do the fronts. So yeah, we're going to go back to where I was, just taking off the bolt. I haven't touched it since the end of that last clip. So as for the fronts, they're actually really easy. Mine's got an ABS clip on it, so I need to take that clip off there. Take this off here. Just pop that out. Same on this side. Okay, and then just them two bolts, just there. Now if you haven't got a impact gun, you can just use an 18mm socket and a ratchet and an 18mm spanner to hold one side while you undo the other. I, however, am very lazy and I don't have time to use ratchets. Just watch this ABS on the one side if you have it. And it's raining again, yay. So that's loose now, that's ready to come out apart from that top mount. Just this one here. Now, there are several guides on how to do this. You can either use a through spanner, which is what I'm going to use, which is a socket with a hole through the middle, or you can use a spark plug socket, a spanner and Allen key, but that's a really hard way of doing it because you have to faff around for a long time. I'll show you actually. I haven't got one. Right. Oh yeah, I have. So the way I did it for years was a spark plug socket over there, which sits snug, a spanner on this top, an Allen key through there, and that works, but it's a faff. But it has got me through the last couple of cars that I've done. But now I have a through socket, it's a lot easier, but I'm going to rip that out with a impact driver. I'll be putting it back on that I'll need this method. With that undone, be careful not to snag any cables. There we go. And I'm going to need these. Now because this car's only done 16,000 miles, I'm going to keep the original caps. But if it was anything else I would have probably got new ones. But because it's done such low mileage, I'm just going to keep them. Now if you do need to keep those top mounts, you will need spring compressors. I have spring compressors, so it makes my life a lot easier, and the ratchet gun will come in handy for that as well. Now with spring compressors, these are the old school type. Just put them over the spring and then wind them down. I may need to wind that out a little bit. Now you need to do it evenly, so when you start to compress this side, you need to start to compress this side as well, else it will twist and it won't be very good. So that's top's loose now, so all the tension's gone. I'm now going to use my through socket on there. If you're not sure what a through socket is, it's like a normal socket with a hole through the middle, and the ratchet goes on the outside of the socket so that you've got a nice space in the middle to get to that Allen key bolt. You can get to that Allen key head just inside there. Now you wouldn't be able to do that with a normal ratchet. There we go, top mount's off, and make sure you get the bearing as well. You'll need the bearing and the top mount and this little washer as well, that's got to be transferred to the coilover. As you can see, I've greased the threads. You always want to grease the threads, at least half of them, so that they don't get seized, because when you come to adjust them in a couple of months, if you need to, up or down, if you need to adjust them in a couple of months, they're going to be hella stuck. The bearing first, that goes on, then the mount, and then the flat top washer. So refitting is the reverse removal. Just going to poke it through there, put that top nut back on, put them bottom bolts back in. Oops. Put them bottom bolts back in, make sure all the lines are cable tied so they don't get in the way, and we're ready to drop it down and set the height. Right, so the coilovers are in. Now all I need to do is jack it up, well, sorry, lower it down, and what will happen then is this spring will move into its location and I can adjust where I want it to sit by winding these down and lock it in place. So I'm just going to lower that down. Hopefully it doesn't sort of get stuck. Right guys, this is how it's sitting now. It's a lot better than it was factory, right down to the tyre, and it looks awesome in my opinion, even on the standard steels. I just love the way Lupos look when they're low. So yeah, I'm well pleased with that. Thanks for watching this one guys. I hope it's helped you out a bit in some way or another, and there's plenty more videos going to come on this because I've got a lot more planned. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Take care guys, bye bye.